And anyways, one day while I was there, I don't know how long I was working upstairs. It was just not the manager and the fellow in charge of the office, Mr. Tate. There was only the three of us working upstairs, and down on the bottom floor was all hardware and china and stuff like that, paint, and there were about 10 employees at that time. And so that would have been in 36, 39, it'd be in about 1940. And then Mr. Smith, the manager, said to me one day, somebody was taking time off because they weren't well. And he said to me, Jeanne, I need somebody to work in the China department. And he said, I'll show you where the stock is downstairs, and you have to replenish the silverware and the china and whatever else we had. And when I got my paycheck, it turned out that the job paid $2 more a month than I was getting working upstairs in the office. So anyways, in the meantime, the girl didn't come back, and he said to me, well, do you want to go back upstairs, or do you want to stay down here? And I said, oh, no, I said, I like it down here. You could talk to all the customers who came in the door. Where upstairs you were sitting there all day long, and you hardly ever talked in the first place. And anyways, so that's where I worked during the war until the last year of the war. The recruiting center was just down the street, and they were always putting their finger out and wanting me to come in and join. And so I eventually wound up being in the service for a whole year at the end of the war.
Do you remember when you moved in with Nanny, what last name was she going by?
Brown.
Brown, already.
Yeah. She had gotten married.
And so
to this Elmer Brown that she...
Was Elmer still there when you moved in?
No, because he had... I think he had already... Had he been in the service? No, I think he used to be... I think he worked for the Star Phoenix, it seems. Or he wrote articles. Seemed to me he worked for some paper. So he was... Somehow he wasn't there when I was there. At least he was only there a very short time.
What kind of stuff did Nanny have in her apartment?
Well, she had a bedroom suite and actually like this big kitchen with no kitchen cupboards. I guess she had a table and chairs in there and a couple armchairs or something. And then the couch, a lot of people just had these couches that you pulled out. They were like on not a very good mattress or anything. And anyways, that's where I slept. And then, of course, when I started to work, there was a girl that I went to tech with. Her parents weren't living, and she asked me if I would share an apartment with her. So we moved into this one-room apartment in the Drinkle block across from Old Eaton's, and I think the rent was about $6 a month. So we shared the expenses and cooked our meals. And
how old were you then?
And what?
How old were you?
Well, I would have been, how old? That was about 1941, 42 maybe.
And so, did you just feel at that age you needed privacy, or why did you move out? Because Nanny was by herself?
Well, then when Nanny was by herself, because Elmer went away to the war, and he was, I can't even remember what service he was in. And so then I moved in with her. Because in the meantime, Irene had gotten married to this fellow that was in the service, and he got stationed somewhere in the States, in California or somewhere, on some kind of a thing. And then that's where she moved with him. Then I moved in with Mom again.
Do you remember when you were a teenager, did Nanny smoke and drink?
No.
Neither? Do you remember when
Oh,
she...
yeah, well, she smoked, that's right. She did smoke, because there was a whole bunch of widows that lived in the apartment, or some of them maybe where their husband was gone away. And they used to play cards about almost every night of the week. And everybody smoked. When you opened the door to wherever they were playing cards at night, the room was full of smoke. And Mom wasn't, she was the only one not smoking. And they always kept saying to her, Marie, why don't you have a cigarette? And that's how come she started to smoke. But she really didn't smoke. She kind of puffed, you know. She put it up to her and she kind of, I don't know whether you have to inhale with a cigarette. Well, you've tried it. Have you tried it? You never tried smoking? Okay. Well, anyways, that's how come she started to smoke. And maybe she drank, but as far as I know.
So do you think you felt comfortable moving in with your mom, since you had never been with her?
Yeah, well, it was, you know, like, I felt like Auntie Anne was my mom. I mean, when you're growing up young, those are the big impressions that you remember.
You don't remember Auntie Anne or Bill being upset when you moved? Because
No.
you had been their child for
Yeah,
10 years.
yeah.
So.
Well, I used to write them letters all the time. I don't know whether you saw, Willie had given me a suitcase full or a box full of letters I had written them. Yeah, well, I always wrote.
Well, we should read through those, because we might learn some of these details about your life that you can't remember.
Yeah,
Just little things.
yes, that's right, yeah.
So you said Nanny was always sewing. Did she sew privately, or she sewed for a company?
Well, she was, I don't know what the name of the company was on 20th Street. She worked for somebody. And then it seemed to me she worked for somebody that was a furrier. And that's how come, I don't know whether I have a photo there of me in a little fur coat. Because everybody said I used to have a, you know, Doris, so maybe will remember. I think they said I had a little white rabbit coat my mother had sewn for me. And I know, like, even when we were living, even here, sometimes I'd be looking for something new to wear, and she'd say, just go down and get enough cloth for me to make your dress, and then I'd come home with it, and she'd make a dress in an afternoon for me. I'd have something to wear that night.
Do you remember when
And
you
that's why that's why her eyesight went, I'm sure. You know, because it's straining. People don't realize the different things that you work at, how you maybe get carpal tunnels because, and well, like with Leslie, and different things that affect different parts of your body, and how you pay for it later on.